recording it and sending it out. I suppose firstly, yeah, Kane, how are you, mate? I understand a little bit of an elbow issue at the moment, but you're back in the Mount, so how are things?
Yeah, no, good, thanks. Yeah, just a sort of inflammation in a tendon in my elbow, but it's just precautionary, so unfortunately won't be playing this next round. But yeah, it's been heaps of fun playing the last two, and I think we're still a very, very slim chance of sneaking through to the finals, which would be really exciting. But yeah, one game at a time, and other results have to go our way. But yeah, it's all good.
And speaking of exciting, the BLACKCAPS confirmed as qualifying for the World Test Championship final yesterday. What was your reaction to waking up to that news?
Yeah, I had a phone call and got told that, which yeah was very exciting. Obviously, the circumstances with how it came about were pretty unexpected and not the way you'd like to see it happen. But you know, I suppose we're always in with a chance, and you know, to have that opportunity, I suppose, cemented. Although in this day and age, nothing's concrete. You know, it's really exciting and really chuffed for all the guys, and you know, I guess acknowledges a lot of hard work throughout the summer, and I think going into it, obviously, COVID changed the qualifying criteria, I suppose, a little bit, but it meant that you know a number of teams were in the hunt, and you know, coming into our summer, it was sort of going right. If we perhaps win these 4 tests, you know, that gives us an opportunity to be there at Lords or wherever it may be, and you know, and we did manage to do that and play some good cricket along the way, and it's really exciting to get the nod. So. I know the test guys will be, you know, really, really excited at that prospect.
Absolutely, and I also see overnight you've signed on for the 100 competition, which will be maybe a few weeks or a month after that tour. Can you just, I suppose, yeah, talk us through yeah, the prospect of playing in that and how that'll work?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting new competition, and you know, the first year of it cancelled due to COVID, and so they're obviously looking to start in this next summer in the UK. And you know, personally, I suppose a lot of these things, and travel is obviously fairly difficult at the moment, but this particular competition, how it came about was quite fortunate in terms of logistically, really. So we're going to be in that part of the world, and my wife's family is in the UK, and so it's a good opportunity to get back with the baby and connect over in that part of the world. And yeah, I mean, there's still a few things to work through in terms of how that whole picture looks, but yeah, I mean, exciting that yeah, we'll get to spend some time over there and hopefully play in that 100 ball, all going well.
Cool. I'll throw it across to Gents, and then the rest of you can have a question which I've written out in order in the Zoom chat. Cheers, Kane.
Yeah, hi Kane. Just picking up on what you just said about being away and on the road. I mean, have you done the sums? Because there's obviously tours, I think, of Bangladesh and Pakistan after that, and the World T20, and then India Tests. There's a lot happening this year. Have you done the sums on how many months solid you might be away from the Mount?
Yeah, oh wow, yeah, loose sums. It could be sort of 9 months or so, maybe more. And so yeah, it's a challenge actually, and still is. We haven't planned it out exactly. I don't think you can sort of try and throw in a few contingencies to see how it all might unfold. But you know, at this point in time, we'll look to go from the IPL to the UK, stay in the UK, and within that sort of 2.5-3 month period that we'll have there, which is there aren't. Correct me with the maths, but it's about that. And then there's that 100 ball competition in that time, which does fit quite nicely and is a really exciting competition to potentially be a part of. And then on to some of the series that you have that we have coming up down the line a little bit, which could be sort of a 3.5 month block from the likes of Bangladesh, Pakistan, and then India with the T20 World Cup within that Indian series, and then back maybe December time, I think. I hope I've done well there remembering dates, but it's a fairly lengthy time away. And I guess just this day and age with the COVID restrictions and quarantine, I suppose personally staying over there will mean limiting an extra quarantine. Look, it's an interesting time.
All right, and in terms of your, I know you just mentioned your elbow and things. I mean, obviously it's a heavy workload. Have you given any thought to whether you might miss certain series, or has that been talked through with Gary yet?
I mean, it's still very early on in the planning. There's a lot to go through with all the different players playing the different formats. There's a few playing all formats. The player workload is something that's always discussed, and I guess with the added element of the COVID challenge with quarantine and potential bubbles, there is a physical component, but a mental component that does need to be considered with the players and support staff. And I've got no doubt that those conversations will be had.
Okay. And just quickly, you're okay you'll be right for the start of the Aussie February 22. You think you'll be okay for that game?
Yeah, it's hoping that it's just sort of a week thing to settle. Like I say, precaution, and just being advised that the wisest move will be to take that week and hopefully not worry about it again, rather than shit and leave that in the air a little bit. So just should be a week thing and then back to it. So that's nice.
Thank you.
Hey Kane, Luke Robinson here from News Hub. Just on that T20 series against Australia. Australia's squad is out. I think ours is expected in the next couple of weeks. How much of that is going to be about, with an eye to the T20 World Cup coming up?
That's an interesting one. I suppose there are so many world events, or perhaps less in this current time, but I guess when you don't consider the restrictions of COVID and you look at just the schedule as it is, and there's T20 World Cups, there's One Day World Cups, and they do tend to come thick and fast. And I suppose as a side, you're always looking to build and improve, and you do have those in the back of your mind, but that the cricket in front of you is the focus. So, and it's a really exciting T20 series coming up against Australia, a very strong side, and as they always are. And I guess there's a small part in the back of your mind, but I think focusing on what's in front of you is often the best way to I suppose prepare or work towards some of those other competitions that you might be involved in. So we know that it's going to be a tough challenge. There is quite a bit of T20 cricket between now and the World Cup. So and a lot of time as well. So it'll just be addressing what's in front of us.
Because that Australian squad to play in New Zealand is made up, predominantly of the people that have been doing well in the Big Bash. Is that going to be sort of similar, do you think, with the squad the BLACKCAPS select, form players rather than, I don't know, players that have been playing for a while, perhaps out of form?
Look, I think the conversations will be had prior to selection, but, each country is in a fairly different position. And I know that the Australian test side was scheduled to then leave to South Africa, and that has its challenges in terms of other squads perhaps that have been named. But like you say, they've had their T20 competition being played and are due to finish fairly soon. So there's been a high volume of T20 cricket for all of those players, and there's a number of really experienced Australian T20 cricketers in there, and some really exciting new talent that they're bringing over as well. And like I say, you always know the depth in that country is runs deep, and they'll have a very strong side. Absolutely no doubt about that. I think they're a few players away from perhaps their last squad. So in terms of ours, you'll look at the situation. The selectors will be having those conversations and look to pick the side that we think is best fit.
And just lastly from me, if we can go back to the World Test Championship final, We obviously know what happened at Lords a few years ago against England. Your last tour to the Australian the Australian tests as well. Is there a preference on who you want to face? Potentially some redemption there. Do you guys have a team, or do you personally have a team you'd rather play in that final?
No, I mean it's an interesting thing that Test Championship. I think it's been a really exciting part to the Test game, but because it's such a long competition, you know, when it starts, you are just focusing on as a group, you know, the session that you have in front of you, the period of cricket that's important. You don't tend to look, well, you can't look down the line. It's just focusing on the cricket that you have at hand, and then in amongst all of that, you have all of these other teams competing and getting points, and so you can't micromanage perhaps where you might end up. It's an interesting thing, and then you go through what we've all had, and it's the COVID effect, and then there's been a subtle change in some of the qualifying criteria, and then you can kind of then identify your best way to make a final. And for us, you know, we had the 4 tests in front of us, and then within those you saw perhaps some declarations that were quite fair, because you understood that the carrot at the end was far more valuable than just, you know, maybe this one period of cricket. You wanted to really push for the opportunity to win it, and I think we saw that as well over in the Australian Indian series in that last test as well, which I think was great for the game, and saw a huge amount of exciting test cricket as you were getting nearer to perhaps playing in that final. So I guess there's so much going on within it that to sit here and perhaps talk about who you think you might face and all these things, it's such a long tournament, I guess, and you know, you appreciate all the sides' efforts. You respect all the hard work that goes into trying to perhaps end up, you know, in a Test Championship final. So, you know, all the best to all the teams that are still in it. We don't have any more cricket left. It's out of our control, and fair play to the teams that are there.
Okay, I think it's my turn. Hayley Holt from TVNZ. Good morning. Afternoon, sorry. Now, I'm going to get at that question just from the other angle, because deep down, in your opinion, is there somebody you wouldn't like to face in that World Test Championship final?
I would love to repeat my last answer, but it was a long one. Like I say, I mean, we feel, you know, very fortunate to, over the 2-year period, to have competed in a number of test matches, having won a number of those test matches, which has helped our case. And then there's just so much that goes into the mix to perhaps, you know, making this final that, like I say, I think that all the players are incredibly chuffed to have the opportunity to play in it. Whoever you play, it is what it is. It's their cricket that they're playing. We're just trying to focus on what we can control.
Okay, a different topic. Some Olympic athletes are a bit concerned about whether they're going to get a COVID-19 vaccine before they head off to the Olympics. Is this a concern to the BLACKCAPS, especially as you're leaving, the start of April?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something to discuss. I think the vaccines will slowly get unrolled here in our country, and I think, you know, as a country, it's sometimes hard to connect with, you know, the speed in which the vaccine does need to be, I guess, rolled out, particularly in other countries where we've been so fortunate here in New Zealand, where we've been able to, in a lot of ways, keep the virus at bay and live a pretty normal existence for the last few months, which is, you know, we feel very fortunate. You know, as a cricketer that's gone overseas during that time, you can, you know, appreciate a lot of the other challenges that go on around the world. So, you know, I guess looking ahead, and there's still, you know, so much happening in unknowns with the COVID virus, that there'll be a lot of conversations about that moving forward. But there is still a bit of time between that date.
And so you're spending a considerable amount of time overseas, 9 months, I think you said. Are you confident you've got the protocols in place to remain healthy, especially as a team, and then also confident about bringing your family over to the UK with you?
Yeah, at this stage, and I sort of mentioned, the plans aren't concrete. It's still very early on, and there's a lot to go through to feel confident that all these plans can kind of come to life. But and a lot of that's relied on with pre-tour checks and things. So they will be important parts to finalising a lot of those decisions. And you can only sort of in some ways guesstimate what things will be like, because you're planning so far ahead. So like, they're not concrete. It's just we have to wait and see before pushing go, which might be a few weeks out. We just don't know. There's so many unknowns with trying to deal with all of these things and try and see sporting events go ahead, and people making decisions with where they might want to be in a certain point in time, but you do have to be flexible with it.
Just very finally, are you a little bit annoyed that your entry into the World Test Championship has been attributed to Australia not going to South Africa rather than your incredible run of form?
No, I'm not annoyed. I don't really. I mean, that's, I guess, a part of it, isn't it? That's why we got the phone call now, and it became official, and that is because that has happened, which is very unfortunate for Australia, because they would have very much had a focus going into that series and trying to achieve a final spot. And so it is, it is a real shame that they didn't get that opportunity. But from our perspective, we had the games that we had, and very much worked as hard as we could to try and achieve a spot in the final. So, as a team, we were proud of our efforts, and it is great that from our own perspective that it has resulted in an opportunity to be there.
Hi Kane, it's Kate Wells here from News Talk ZB. The test side has, really improved over the years. If you look back at, some of those really poor results that you've had, and what would you put it down to, now that you're in the World Test Championship final?
Yeah, I mean, the team has grown a lot over the years, and that's a real focus of ours, is to continue to improve, and that doesn't stop. It's great to be in a Test Championship final, but there's always more cricket around the corner, and so as a group, and not just in the Test format, but in the T20s and the one days as well, there is a real drive to continue to improve and get better, and I think that's a large part of that. But I suppose within our sport, there's also a lot of things that you can't control as well. So as best you can, just addressing the areas that are important to you as a group, and going with the flow a little bit. You always have days that always have those challenges. You always have your wins and your losses and these sorts of things, but just trying to track in an upward trend over a period of time as a group is important to us.
And would you say you've got some really core, key players that you've had in your group for a while, and you've been able to build off that?
I think, within any team that you have, there perhaps are players that have been there for a longer period of time, which is great. You do need that experience. And then, I mean, as a team, particularly in sport, where you're always seeing players and support staff sort of come and go a little bit, whether that's through retirement or, a number of other factors. And as an environment, you're trying to weather that and continue to grow in the direction that you think's best fit for the group that you have. So that's a challenge every day, and one that I know the players and the sports staff relish. So you certainly don't sit still and dwell on things too much, because it just continues to move, and you have to address those things as they come up.
Yeah, and just finally, how happy are you, to see the depth of players, particularly in Super Smash at the moment, with those, tours with Australia and Bangladesh coming up? We've got a lot of talent on the park.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's also been really exciting with some of the opportunities that players have been able to get as well, due to a number of things and COVID and all these other bits and pieces that go into the mix, and you see guys come in and they've played some T20 cricket at times in the past, and their games have moved so far, and then they come back into the side. And we saw during the West Indies and Pakistan series that the number of players that were used, and the amount of contributions that were made is really, really exciting. And then you throw in the Super Smash, and every team, there's so many players that have, I guess, at that age and got that experience and really playing extremely well. So yeah, these are really promising things for the depth of our game. But like I say, it doesn't sit still. You don't just reflect. It's always about moving forward and trying to grow.
Hi, Kane. Felicity from Radio New Zealand. Just with the slight delay of the Bangladesh series, is touring teams now, is it something that you have to look to a little bit more once the BLACKCAPS start touring as well, that there could be potential delays or that series might not quite go as ahead as planned?
Yeah, potentially. It's difficult these days to make a plan and be 100% confident that it's going to go day to day as you'd expect. And that's the climate we're in. And so yeah, we've got this next series, or the one after, Australia, and it's the Bangladesh series, and it's had to be adjusted a little bit. But it is great that that's able to happen, and we're still going to see the cricket scheduled, albeit on slightly different days than what we first thought. But the content will still be there, which I think is the main thing.
Thank you.
Nice one. Someone there from Crowd Goes Wild. Otherwise, we might wrap it up there, guys. Good 25-minute stint. No, they might just be leaving it running. Cool. All right, I think that's, unless anyone else, we can probably wrap it up there. Appreciate your time down there, Kane. Actually, I've got one more question from David White. Says, is the elbow injury anything to do with looking after the baby in the last month or so?
I don't know. Although, yeah, she is putting on some weight, which is great. But yeah, hopefully not sure.
That's all going all right though. Enjoying that?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, incredible experience, and I suppose a silver lining to having a little bit extra time at home during the times where she's so small, and you're seeing her grow so fast.
Awesome. That's great, mate. Hey, we really appreciate you giving us some of your time, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.